Thank you, Arnab. Look, let's remember, I don't see why Mr. Batra is being so sensitive. It's generally acknowledged that American police has been profiling racially, though the ones at the receiving end have largely been African Americans for the last multiple decades, not today. The Rodney King affair, 91, LA burned for a number of days. Again in Ferguson last year, we found the community take to the streets. Now, that itself is a symptom that over 40 years, the community starts burning up the city, only then the police takes action.
Absolutely,
Generally,
absolutely.
The police covers up and protects their own, and they only start acting. And in LA also, there was a commission, and the reform did not set in till about 10 years later, and they are still not fully reformed. New York has had a reform, but it's not a fully mature reform. And our post 9/11, what has happened is the American police has got more militarized. There are more SWAT teams. They hit you on the head first at the slightest suspicion and ask questions later.
Exactly.
They've got this doctrine of stop and search.
Absolutely.
They can stop anybody and start searching him. So the fact remains, I think America needs to look inwards, that they become paranoid after the attack, after 9/11.
Exactly,
And
Casey.
they have to start really understanding that civil liberties have to be spread across the board. You can't do
Well
racial
said, Casey.
profiling.
Well
You
said.
can't just pick up someone because he looks different.
Yeah.
And let me make the second point that we don't need, we are not begging for help. This is an Indian citizen.
Yes.
So the government of India should bring all their might behind this citizen today.
They should.
And we shouldn't just simply say an official is going there and he'll find out what he needs. Why, it's not a question of finding out what he needs.
I agree
We
with
need
you,
to
Casey.
really get active with the U.S. Embassy here.
Nobody
Tell the US,
disagrees with
government
that.
To
I
please
agree
use
with
their
you,
federal, use their federal authority. Use their federal authority. Here is an Indian citizen, and we will do all we can to not only protect him, bring him back, but also to restore his honor and also to restore the dignity of Indians in that country.
Absolutely. And you know what,
One
Casey?
second.
Casey, I'll
One
tell you,
second.
Casey,
One second.
One second. Just a minute before you come in. Ravi, by the way,
Arnab.
that was the voice of wisdom. That wasn't me.
Sure.
That was your voice of wisdom, Casey Singh, speaking tonight. I think he spoke the same
One
language
second.
as I did.
So I want to join Casey in some things and have a nuance separation.
No.
in
There's
others.
no nuance in this.
Okay,
One
one
second,
second.
Ravi Batra.
No, hold on.
Ravi Batra, hold on, Ravi Batra. I want to today question whether in America, where there was the headline non-stop for days on end of what happened after the Ferguson incident, I want to know how much time the American media and all of America is doing talking about what happened to Suresh Bhai Patel. Now, my question is this: the Madison
Zero.
police
Zero, right?
Zero.
Or almost nothing.
No, 1 second. So,
But that is the fault not of American
Because
journalism.
the community
That's the
doesn't
fault
riot.
of Indian
Because we
Americans
don't burn
who
shops
haven't
and
grown
kill
up
people.
yet.
no, that's really
They're still
simple.
babies.
Because we
What
don't
do you-
riot.
Hold on, guys.
No,
Hold
no,
on.
it's a joke.
Wait,
Right.
1 second. How is it? 1 second.
I think this is
Casey,
hilarious.
Listen,
1 second. Casey is responding to
You go-
you. Casey is responding to you. Ravi Batra, Casey is responding to you. Casey.
Media to highlight such cases.
Casey-
Infringement of
No,
fundamental
second.
rights of a person.
May I?
No,
the media is
Arnab,
not doing its
Arnab.
job.
Which means they will not
Arnab.
act.
Casey,
We have
Casey,
sep-
Casey.
we have separation of powers.
Doesn't
Casey.
mean they will only act.
1 second. We have separation of powers. When something wrong happens, it becomes part of the third branch, which means the law. And you know what? If you don't know what you're doing in American law, like every other court, you lose. Okay? We won for Kritika Biswas. We had the criminal charges dropped. We had the charges dismissed. We sued in federal court.
Sir, I'm talking
we won. Okay? It's not so easy to win. We won. We won in the Second Circuit Court of Appeals. You got to know what
Mr.
you're
Batra,
doing. If you don't know what you're
Mr. Batra,
doing,
you know
don't
what
get
is,
anything.
you know, Mr. Batra, this case is worse than any other that I've heard of.
Even in India,
I agree.
the
I agree.
principle of
I
separation
agree. But
of powers
but you know
apply.
what? If you know what? If you want to go in a racetrack, don't come with riding a horse. You want to be in a Ferrari, okay?
One
You
second,
want to
Mr.
have-
Batra, let's not trivialize this incident.
This is
One second, Mr. Batra.
not a
No, Mr.
government
Batra,
issue.
let's not trivialize
This
this
is not-
incident. No, it's a very serious incident.
1 second.
And I'm no, one
No,
second,
I
one
agree
second,
it's-
1 second, Mr. Batra. You've spoken more than anyone else on the panel so far. I'm going to come back to you, but the question is this: how does a family of Mr. Suresh Bhai Patel not have the right to know how their father landed up in a half-paralyzed state just days
They
into
do.
coming into
They do
America?
have that right.
1 minute. Sir, you're a civilized democracy. Is it common practice in America to deny the family of the victim evidence of the crimes committed against them? And there is an allegation that someone
it's
didn't
not.
recognize a passerby and called the cops who took the law into their own hands because the suspect did not speak in English. How does an Indian... No, one second.
One second, Arnab. The law is like a recipe. How many people do you know can make a good dish out of a recipe?
Sir, we're talking
Not many
about a
cooks
man's
know how to
life.
follow the recipe.
We're talking about a man's life.
I know, but the law is what gives you the rights.
So we have the
If you
lawyer
don't know
Hank
how to handle
Sherrod
the
joining
law,
us.
You lose your rights.
Hank
That's
Sherrod.
simple.
So
You
one
have to
second.
know-
I have
you
the
have to be
lawyer.
a chef in the kitchen.
I have the lawyer for Chirag Patel now with me, and Chirag Patel is the son of Suresh
Wonderful.
Bhai Patel. One second. This is interesting. Hank Sherrod, can you hear me? I just lost the line there with him. I'm so sorry. I'm going to try and get that Skype that Skype back. I'm going to start opening up the phone lines. Maruf, are you satisfied with the version being given
Arnab.
here right now from our guest from America? Yes, Maruf.
Not at all. Not at all. I think Mr. Batra is looking at it with colored glasses. Because he comes from the legal fraternity, everything revolves around whether it's legally plausible or not. But please understand, Mr. Batra, there is a human element to it. There is a diplomatic element to it. There is also the element about how a normal citizen who does not understand the legalities as well as you do can expect what is freedom. You guys thump your chest about freedom.
I agree.
Freedom is about the ability to walk in the street without being harassed. And if you can't guarantee that to a person who has passed through all the visa and entry requirements, then there is need for you to hang your head in shame. And don't lecture us about law.
Ray
We
Locker.
also have laws. You might have
second.
become a naturalized American citizen. But Mr. Batra, go back to your roots. Your roots are also very similar to this family which is suffering today.
Absolutely,
So don't
Maruf.
I agree.
pontificate
I agree.
when you cannot understand that a man may have, and he's not the only person who has a communication problem.
Absolutely.
Mr. K.C. Singh rightly brought it out that your police is amongst the most violent in any developed
racist.
country. You need to learn lessons.
Arnab,
you need to learn
1 second.
lessons. Your
1
police
second.
needs to learn
I
lessons.
agree. I
that not
agree. I
everybody who
agree.
walks the street is carrying a weapon in his hand. Not everybody who walks the street
Suresh
is
Bhai
a
Patel.
potential terrorist
Suresh Bhai
because he
Patel.
doesn't look white Anglo-Saxon.
I want to have the
So
faces
please
of
get
those.
real, Mr.
Sir, I want to
No.
know. I want to
1 second.
name. I want
Suresh
the
Bhai
names.
Patel
I want
is
the
a-
names. I believe tonight. I believe in name and shame. And Mr. Batra, I believe, and Ray Locker, I believe that I, as an Indian citizen, have the right to know the names of the racist American policemen who did this to a fellow Indian. Don't I, Mr. Baloka? Why are the names of the policemen
Yes,
not
I
being
agree with
given
you.
out?
I agree with you.
Then why are the
I
names
don't know
not
the
being
name,
given
but
out?
you're going to find out
But-
soon enough.
No, why are
Those
the names
names will
not being
become
given
public.
out?
Arnab.
But why have the names not been given out?
Arnab.
Why have the names not been given out?
Arnab.
Obama talks about the American dream. He goes mute when his racist officers beat the father of an American citizen who embodies that dream. I am asking you, why have the names?
Arnab.
Why have the names of those racist
Arnab,
policemen not
1
been
second.
given out, Mr. Loka?
Suresh Bhai Patel.
Arnab, I don't think
Suresh
we know
Bhai
the
Patel.
answer why.
Why?
They
I think I
obviously
know
don't
the
want to give
answer.
them out.
You tell me, what do you think?
Suresh Bhai
What do you think,
Patel
Ray?
Are you
said-
asking me?
I'm asking you, why do you think the names are not
I
being
think
given
they're
out?
not
The videos
ready to
not
give
being
out the name because they haven't gotten their story straight. And once they get their story straight, then they'll give out the name.
So they're
but
fixing
they're
the
obviously
story.
hiding something or trying to cover things up.
Okay.
I think your suspicion is completely legitimate. What happened to Mr. Patel is horrific. They don't know what to do about it, and they're in a panicking situation. What's going to happen eventually is there's going to be a criminal investigation, possibly criminal charges, a civil suit that will end up giving a large settlement to Mr. Patel and his family. The Justice Department may investigate. The lawyers will keep pressure on this. The media, including the United States media, will continue to keep pressure on this because that's happening now. I learned about this story yesterday through the Alabama media, not through the Indian media. So people are covering this. There are people who have a vested interest in bringing justice.
Why? Why
to
are they
this
covering
case.
it? And how big a
And
story is this all over America, sir?
It's a pretty big story. Certainly in Alabama it is. I mean, a lot of people are horrified by this. I mean, people know that there's a problem with law enforcement in some places. Not every police officer who has a very dangerous job has gotten the message about ethnic diversity in this country. Not every person in America has gotten the message about the need for ethnic diversity all over the country. They see somebody with brown skin and they freak out.
So
and that's
this
what
is the
happened with
this
poor
is
Mr.
the, what do you
Patel.
mean they see somebody with brown skin and they freak out? I mean, I just don't understand. You have to be
Suresh Bhai
completely
Patel.
freaked out to freak out about
Arnab,
somebody having brown
Arnab,
skin and
this
freaking out over that.
statement-
I just don't understand this.
This
I'd like to go to
statement by
I'd like to go to Hank
Mr.
Sherrod.
shows-
No, this just shows what's Hank Sherrod. Hank, can you hear me now?
This itself shows the racism that exists there.
Let's see if Mr.
Loker
Sherrod
has
can
just
hear me.
proved what we have been discussing.
One second. Hank Sherrod
That
is
they are
the lawyer.
insensitive to
Gaurav
brown-skinned
Bhatia.
people, and there is racism that exists.
Okay, one sec. Hank Sherrod.
Mr. Loker just admitted that there is racism there.
Arnab, can I just
and
make
they
one
get
point?
freaked out
Just a
by
point. Let me try once
What
more
kind
with
of
the lawyer for
democracy
Mr.
is this?
Patel.
Are they not violating the liberty of the individual?
Of course there are.
Mr. Loker, what is
Sure we
expected
are.
out of your administration is that you would hand over the evidence to the family members, you would suspend the officer, and you would empathize with the victim rather than shielding him.
Hank Sherrod, can you
There's
hear
due
me?
Process.
Well, first
There's
of
due
all-
process.
Hank
The
Sherrod.
officer has been suspended.
One second. Hank Sherrod, can you hear me, Hank? Mr. Sherrod, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hi.
you're coming. You're
Okay.
coming in and out.
Okay, great. So let me just ask you, tell us what Mr. Patel went through and what is the battle that you're fighting? What's the battle that you're fighting, Mr. Sherrod, in this case?
You know, the first battle in all of these cases is the lies that police officers usually tell to cover up things they've done. So that's why we're just trying to get the truth out, get the video, get the audio, get the reports, get the call from, if there was really a call from somebody in the neighborhood. So it's first a fight for the truth, and then a fight for some measure of justice for Mr. Patel.
Mr. Sherrod, what was Suresh Bhai Patel's fault?
Nothing was his fault. And that's what's so sad about the approach taken in this case by the city of Madison, Alabama. You know, the first thing they do is they try to protect the police. They try to protect the police by, putting out a slanted or sometimes an untrue version of what happened.
So what did they put out in this case? Interesting. Can I just have the pictures of Mr. Patel also? My question to you here is, what is the slanted version they put out in this case, Mr. Sherrod? What did they put out?
They put out that Mr. Patel was supposedly looking in garages on the street.
Looking in garages.
Looking in garages. That's what they. The Madison Police Department did a press release on Monday, before the family, we had made any media appearances, and said that they got a call and that Mr. Patel somehow resisted a search. And none of that is true. And all that, and even if there's some little part of some of that that's true, it is not what fundamentally happened here. What happened here was two bullies did something wrong, and you can't change that by putting out the false information like I believe the city has. They have the video. They have the audio. If this was all Mr. Patel's fault, I think they would have shared it with us.
They refused to share it with you, so they're hiding something here. You said in one of your statements that the only fault of Mr. Patel was that he had brown skin.
Brown skin and couldn't speak English. But nobody would have thought he was a threat. Nobody would have thought that this mild, small man needed to be manhandled and slammed to the ground. And it's just wrong that we're even having to have this discussion this week. What a police department ought to do in this situation is just, admit that something wrong happened. And say what they're going to do about it. But this is a dance I've seen done so many times. The first reaction by the police department is to shade or slant or sometimes blatantly.
Hank?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I'm happy to help you. I'm happy to help you get a full measure of justice for Suresh Bhai Patel, who, by the way, India should acknowledge with great honors because he used the term Indian almost as a certificate of being a peace-loving human being, which answers the prior point being made.
Sir, but
to
the
look at
whole
this issue
state.
as on a human level.
No, 1 second, 1 second. Now let's open this up to calls, gentlemen. All across the entire country, people are calling in tonight. They are so angry about the case of Suresh Bhai Patel. And I think tonight, wherever you're watching, this case of Suresh Bhai Patel should be made an example. The country, the government of India, and all of us should fight so hard to prove that there has been racism in this case. Our government also needs to step forward and fight, because from what it appears today, this is a clear and open case of racism. Racism, and nothing but racism. Next time Obama opens his mouth and talks about tolerance, let him first talk about the lack of tolerance in Madison, Alabama. 1 second. I have Abhinav, who's a student calling in from Delhi today.
Clearly.
Abhinav, yes, from Delhi. Abhinav is calling in today. Go ahead, Abhinav.
Hello to all the panelists. I'd just like to make a quick comment, and then I will just ask a quick question. The comment is actually Mr. Batra. I was listening to what he was saying, and he seems to make it about the court case and the law. It is not. We are talking about a larger issue here. We are talking about a sentiment. We're talking about an underlying sentiment which has actually spread itself in the American society about immigrants and the intolerance towards them. So I was at the speech at Citiport Auditorium when Mr. Obama pointed out that himself, his wife included, had to face racism back in the days. And Mr. Obama saying it very categorically that we should practice religious tolerance. I agree. But this does not transcend to religious tolerance. This is about Mr. Obama first sorting his house and then telling
Abhinav.
other people.
Abhinav, good point. Good point. I'm going to have to take a few more callers, Abhinav. So I'll have to thank you at this point, Abhinav, for calling. I've got so many callers. I want to do justice to as many as possible. And to our guests this evening from Madison and from New York and Washington, I would like you to take these voices of Indians and go and fight this, because this is not a fight just for one Indian citizen. This is a fight for justice. Our next caller is Rohit Kachru. He's calling in from Pune. Yes, Rohit.
Good evening, Arnab.
Good evening, Rohit. What would you like to say?
Arnab, I would just like to make a quick comment to 2-3 lines. See, I want to say irony just died 1,000 deaths the day when a highly intolerant culture of America and its president preached India about religious tolerance. We spread a red carpet for him, and see, look what we got in return. Arnab, quite humorously, I would like to point out, it's like Pakistan saying we are worried about terror activities and terrorism in other countries, and look at what is happening in their backyard.
I take your point.
And also, Arnab, finally, I would just like to quote Gandhiji for Mr. Obama, who he idolizes so much. Gandhiji said, "Be the change you want to see."
Yeah.
And also on a lighter note, I want to ask Mr. President Obama and everyone in the panel, wouldn't Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln, and Gandhiji be shocked to see the
Absolutely, they would. They would.
And hypocrisy in USA?
They would. But Rohit, actually the best thing is this story is now coming out of Alabama. It should go across the American media.
Could I ask Rohit a question?
Yes, go ahead, Rohit.
Could I ask Rohit a question?
Okay, Rohit.
Rohit, India is a wonderful civilization, a grand old civilization that's brought peace and all sorts of wisdom and science to the world. But does one rape here or one rape there or another rape there or an Uber rape, does that make India a rapist? It does not. It does not.
Terrible.
So
no,
please,
one second, Mr. Batra.
But I am saying
1 second.
you must not,
Mr.
must not America
1 second.
bash.
I think Casey wants to respond to you.
That's all I'm saying.
Casey wants to respond to you. Casey.
That is not
Don't America bash.
Casey is responding to you.
That is not by an instrument of the state. The rape is between two individuals. It's not an instrumentality of the state.
Agreed.
Here,
Agreed.
Police is
and Casey,
police is a state
you are the age of, you are the voice
so
of wisdom.
So the violence is committed by a state
police officer.
Yeah.
No, I agree. That's why it's civil rights violation. I agree with you, Casey.
State.
But it's one police officer that has caused an incident, and he should be. And we need to do it.
No, Mr. Batra, just to add, look at the irony of it. Martin Luther King had the famous Alabama March when he was beaten up in 1965. So it's a state where Martin Luther King's beating up is associated with Alabama.
And we just had the movie Selma. And we just had the movie Selma.
And this
Yes.
is where it has happened. The fatal mistake that Americans are doing in this case is the American state and the American police in this case is grouping together to defend the racists. That's worse. Second is they hope that by keeping the evidence away and out of reach of the family and the media, they'll be able to cover up for it. So Maruf, the real story here is that not only has an incident of racism happened, but the incident of racism is being covered up layer by layer by layer by layer. And I don't think till now anyone in Washington has picked up this story. Now put the pictures of Mr. Batra.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes, Maruf.
I think it's
Mr. Patel.
It's come out more than once. Arnab, it's come out more than once in our interjections. I brought that out to Mr. Batra, and one of the callers also brought that out, that it's beyond just a legal issue. You can't narrow it all down to a very clinical approach that, if the law is in the favor of the person, then he'll get compensated. But imagine the horrifying psychological trauma that the individual would have gone through.
No, but
it's going to be a scar with him for the rest of his life, compensation or no compensation.
And why is Obama quiet on
this? Most importantly, that there is a need for America, which has a very large educated population, to become sensitized to the fact that there are people from outside the world that America should welcome for them to visit America. America goes and perches itself everywhere, including Obama's big pitch in India was open your doors for business here. Now, is this the kind of America that we are wanting to interact with, that they cannot welcome an ordinary citizen taking a walk on the streets? I mean, there has to be some soul searching there. And people, instead of just lecturing us that the legal factors need to be brought into play, there is an emotional element. There is a sensitivity.
I agree.
Gandhiji was once asked, what do you think of Western civilization? And Gandhiji said, I think it will be a good idea. I think America needs to take heed of those words, that the policemen at least need to become more civilized.
Well, the question goes out, why is Barack Obama quiet on this incident? Injustice, one second. Sir, 1 second, I'll tell you injustice. Injustice will be fought.
If I was the mayor of Madison, I would take some action.
Sir, injustice will be fought. Injustice is any individual, irrespective of the color of the skin, being treated as guilty without a trial. Injustice is no progression in the case after 6 days. Injustice is the family of the victim, and just imagine, put yourself in the shoes of that lady, his wife, crying out there, her hands folded, hoping that her husband passes this trauma out there. Injustice, Mr. Batra, and to all Americans tonight, I'd say, is the family of a victim not knowing who has potentially left their father handicapped for the rest of his life. Injustice is being treated as guilty because you don't speak English in a foreign country. And injustice will be if the government of India does not fight front-footed for justice for Suresh Bhai Patel. I thank you all for joining me on this debate. And to Hank, I want to say, Mr. Sherrod, Mr. Sherrod, Mr. Sherrod, I'd say, Mr. Sherrod, I'd say,
one comment if I can make, Arnab.
I just want to thank, no, 1 second, before you come in, Gaurav.
Insensitive, and this is, this is a time for introspection for the American government also. And please be sensitive to the suffering of the Indian family and every Indian who's looking up to your administration tonight.
Well, and Hank, Sherrod, in whichever way, I want you to, first of all, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for fighting for Suresh Bhai Patel. You should know today there are 1.2 billion Indians rooting for you and your fight out there. And the second point tonight is Mr. Ravi Batra, Mr. Ray Locker, you all influential Americans, go make the calls, help Suresh Bhai Patel get justice.
I've offered Hank to help him.
Well,
I've offered the family to help.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us on this debate on the News Hour tonight.